So we have goals now, you guys. We've got big goals. And let me remember that my goal is God. These are all kind of the same, these last 4 lessons. Is that where we're at? Yeah, yesterday we said, let me remember what my purpose is. Today we say, let me remember that my goal is God. Yeah, we're on the right track. Lesson 258. All that is needful is to train our minds to overlook all little senseless aims and to remember that our goal is God. So all that is needful is to train our minds to overlook all the little senseless things, the senseless aims that the ego thinks are so important, and remember that our goal is God. So I'm dressed up today. I'm going to the most egoic production in all the land. I'm going to a wedding. Talk about senseless aims. Talk about a production. Talk about adorning the body. Talk about, this is definitely an egoic thing. I mean, not to say that there isn't an expression of love. I'm just saying the theatrics that go into this stuff is ridiculous. His memory, God, his memory is hidden in our minds, obscured but by our pointless little goals, which offer nothing and do not exist. Shall we continue to allow God's grace to shine in unawareness while the toys and trinkets of the world are sought instead? God is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember him. I just want to interrupt myself so bad, but let me just finish. Our goal is but to follow in a way that leads to you. We have no goal but this. What could we want but to remember you? What could we seek but our identity? So yes, I find it interesting that my judgment on the festivities of the days, I've already had to hand over a dozen things to Holy Spirit. Like, how much is too much to give you today? You know, like, regardless of where we're at or what we got to do today, we can keep our lesson in our minds and choose our lesson, remembering that our only goal is God, that my goal is God. Let me remember that my goal is God. So my goal is not to criticize. My goal is not to whatever past summonings the ego wants to bring up, whatever fight the ego wants to jump into, whatever annoyance, whatever. My only goal is God. I need to retrain my mind, train my mind to overlook all the little senseless aims. So I do have a beautiful opportunity today to appreciate, to stay in the now moment, to enjoy. So that's what I'm going to try to do today, remembering that my goal is God. Shall we continue to allow God's grace to shine in unawareness while the toys and trinkets of the world are sought instead? No. The answer is no. If you didn't know that, the answer is no. God is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember him. That's it. For lesson 258, Tina Jesus reminded us that the ego will not bring us what we truly want, because the ego is fearful, limited, and unloving. It's based on beliefs that won't bring us what we want. The ego is going to warn you about lesson 258 because the ego wants to be in control of everything. It wants to be aware of everything, plan everything, control everything. To the ego, seeking God is radical and dangerous, and it's definitely going to flare up and try to warn you. Stop hanging out with the ego. Stop ruminating on problems. Stop falling for the ego's fearful, limited, unloving beliefs. It will not bring you what you want. So focus on instead making God your only goal. And when you do this, when you focus on making God your only goal and you think about the lessons, even silently throughout the day when you're doing mundane tasks and you're folding the laundry and you're going to weddings, let the lessons occupy your thoughts. And when you retrain your focus, miracles will occur. Sometimes I just gotta cut myself off because Tina Jesus, we gotta keep them little videos short and sweet. So are we ruminating on the past? Yes, you were, Sadie. You were ruminating on past events that your ego is making you fearful might happen again. You were pulling up past stories. You were ruminating about, how that person did you wrong, or, right? That's the ego. That is the ego. The ego wants you to feel horrible. And I have definitely been aware of the ego thought system inviting me in, like, oh, aren't you so excited to go to this wedding and just sit on the sidelines, like, because it's one of those ones. Or the ego's like, oh, I wonder if so-and-so bastard face will be there. Or, oh, I wonder if that lady will be there. Oh, I wonder if, and I just want the ego to shut up. We all do. So focus instead on making God your only goal. Focus instead on the lessons of A Course in Miracles. So yes, you can still be present in your life. You can still be, what did Jesus say? Pulling weeds out of the garden, folding laundry, running errands, whatever. You can go to weddings and still go do what you have to do today. But in your mind, inside your own space, you can be ruminating on something more divine than what's happening around you. Focus instead on making God your only goal. So we're on lesson 258. It's like you probably have a fairly good ACIM database to pull from, to think of things to consider, to, we've got these lessons, which are kind of like affirmations in a way. You can repeat the things that set your mind into right thinking. Now, the ego wants to control everything and be obnoxious, but you have to remember that the ego is fearful, it's limited, it's unloving. Anything that the ego is trying to manifest is actually not going to get you what you want. What do you want? You want love, you want peace, you want calmness, you want love, you want forgiveness, you want to be released from illusions. So maybe that is a little bit radical, Jesus said, but stop ruminating on the problems and ruminate on God. What are you doing, Sadie? I'm ruminating on God right now. We just need a minute. Pathwaysoflight.org. Welcome to the reading. A Course in Miracles Workbook, Lesson 258, Insights. Let me remember that my goal is God. This lesson reminds us that this is a mind training program. In this mind training program, the goal is to return to our true identity, love. We do this by letting go of the artificial values of the ego. The ego always looks for material gain, material wealth, because that is what it values. The Holy Spirit always looks to bring us awareness of the truth, for that is what it values above all else. Awareness of the truth is hidden when our mind is filled with little senseless aims and agendas which keep our minds so busy that we don't have time to remember God. And yet, God remains there in our minds, waiting for our acceptance. My goal today is to recognize senseless aims for what they are. My goal today is to quiet my mind of all the ego's chatter. My goal today is to open my mind to the awareness of God's presence. How much am I willing to be aware of God's presence today? What I seek for, I will find. Let me remember that my only goal is God. This world is filled with senseless aims and pointless goals which do not exist. Some of these goals are consciously set. We think these goals will bring us happiness or safety. But many of our goals are kept unconscious. These goals are made to help us hide from the guilt we feel because we believe we have separated from our source and thus caused harm to our source. It is these unconscious goals that are the basis for judgment and all forms of anger. They are attempts to claim the innocence we do not believe we deserve. We want to project the guilt we feel to anything and everything outside of us so that we can hide the fact that the guilt is in our own minds. This guilt is not real, but it seems real because we believe separation is real. The attempt to put guilt and blame on everything outside us actually works against the goal of ridding ourselves of guilt. It makes the guilt continue to appear real, thus keeping it firmly entrenched in our minds. This is why we need to retrain our minds to have the goal to remember our unity in God. This is the way we end guilt. Guilt cannot be real because it is the effect of the illusion of separation. Remembering God ends the illusion of separation and reunites us with ourself with love. Love is innocent, being all-encompassing and undivided. Therefore, we are innocent in truth. When we remember God, we remember our innocence. Holy Spirit, help me today to let go of senseless aims so that I may remember love. My goal is to see the love in my brother so that I may remember God in him and thus in me. My goal today is to recognize senseless aims for what they are. I have noticed that my list of needs is much shorter than it used to be. I take this as a good sign, but there are still material goals that I am unwilling to release. I think I need a certain amount of money to live comfortably, and I guess I am afraid God doesn't agree because I have been unwilling to just turn that part of my life over to Him. I want to be able to pay my son's tuition to school. I want my body to be healthy and pain-free. I want my children to be part of my life. Those are the only ones I could think of. Today I am asking Holy Spirit to help me become aware of the unconscious goals I have set for myself. I know they are there, but I am not facing them, and I want to. I want God to be my only goal. I give Holy Spirit all resistance I am feeling toward relinquishing my ego goals. I give Him my fear and doubts and ask for another way to see this. pathwaysoflight.org. Like, those are fairly good ego goals, in my opinion. I'd like my body to be healthy and pain-free. I want to have enough money to pay for my life and my kids' school. I want my children to be a part of my life, right? I want to have enough money. But essentially, those are all goals other than the one goal of God. Because our ego can take those goals and really turn us into knots and turn us into worry warts and turn us into just driven to attain this external thing that ultimately won't bring us the happiness that God could. I guess that makes sense. All right, so anyways, that's that. We're going to turn everything over to the Holy Spirit today that needs correcting, that we need a new perspective on. Let me remember that my goal is God. All that is needful is to train our minds to overlook all little senseless aims. That's it. And to remember that our goal is God. So the memory is there. It's just hidden in our minds, obscured by our pointless little goals, which offer nothing and do not even truly exist. So that should help you see things a little differently, or at least offer the small little willingness that the Holy Spirit needs to help you, to correct you, to give you a new perspective. Right? So shall we continue to allow God's grace to shine in unawareness? Because it's shining, we're just not aware of it. While we chase toys and trinkets and things that do not matter, God is our only goal, our only love. We have no aim but to remember him. I mean, it is definitely radical in a sense that your brain is not used to thinking like this. Our goal is but to follow in the way that leads to you, that leads to God. We have no goal but this. What could we want but to remember you? What could we seek but our identity? So take that with you wherever you go today.